Folks, it is officially top 30 visit season in the NFL/Buffalo Bills community. We have already heard about the visit with wide receiver out of Texas, Isaiah Bond, last week. But now we finally end up getting an idea of where this front office may be leaning toward defensive prospects in the upcoming NFL draft. Today is Shavon Revel Jr., a corner out of East Carolina. Folks, I am going to be telling you everything and anything that you need to know about this prospect. And quite frankly, I have a feeling that this might be a first-round target. Say, for example, that some of the defensive tackles this front office may not like. Perhaps Shavon Revel could be a sleeper pick. Welcome to another edition of the Don Mafia Report podcast. Shout out to everybody that is currently tuning in live on YouTube. Please do me a favor and smash that like button and introduce yourself into the chat. We are building a wonderful community here. And for those of you that are listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts, if you are enjoying the show, please do me a favor and leave a rating and review. And also consider coming over to YouTube sometime because as you will probably notice, for the first 10 to 15 minutes of each episode, I hammer down on the topic at hand. And then I ultimately end up switching over to the live chat for a live Q&A segment. If you ever want your voices to be heard or your questions answered, highly recommend that you go on over there. Dan Mitchell, just by searching that, you will indeed find it. All right, folks. Shavon Revel. Now, here's the thing about this prospect. And one thing that I always like opening up with. Let's talk about the bad first. He tore his ACL in September last year. He tore his ACL, and based off of several reports, it depends on exactly who you ask here. He could be ready by week 1, but more than likely, if I am a gambling man, it's more like a week 2, week 3 sort of recovery process. But I think a lot of us will remember that one of the trends that I'm trying to remain consistent on is I want to pick best player available. I want to be able to really bring in a generational talent / a key piece of the defense moving forward. And I'd say obviously a day one contributor would be nice as well. Shavon Revel is this prospect, folks. A lot of us are very high on the Jahdae Barrons of the world. A lot of us are very high on the Will Johnsons of the world. But I'll be completely honest with you. If Shavon Revel did not get hurt last year during his final year of college, I almost guarantee you, my friends, he would have been the number 1 corner prospect going into this draft. He does everything. He excels in everything. He is quality in zone coverage. He leverages his length, his God-given physical specimen of a football build out on the field. It's all over his damn film. He's very, very good. He runs a 4.4. He is your perimeter corner. And to be completely honest with you, I have dreamt of a corner prospect like this opposite of Christian Benford. I think that this would really solidify our secondary, and we could all be very, very happy about it. Now, obviously, there are risks because he is coming off of a reconstructed ACL. But what is ideal is that he is only 22 years old. He will be 23 by the time the NFL season starts. But again, let's take a look at some of the intangibles here. He's 6'3". He's 193 pounds. And again, one of the biggest trends you will notice about this prospect is that this guy, all right, folks, is indeed a prospect that really leverages his overall length. Now, when it comes in to taking a look at what he was able to do in 2023, hence why I am so high on this guy, is out of 328 coverage snaps while he was over at ECU, he only allowed 19 receptions. 42 targets, only for 250 yards by itself. This is what we are looking at as a lockdown corner. And the thing is that we saw 2023 where he ultimately only ended up walking away with 1 interception. And 2023, hands down, had to be his welcome to college football. I have arrived as a prospect in this upcoming NFL draft. And based off of only 3 games, right here, folks, he was on pace to doing the exact same receptions via coverage snaps. And he also collected 2 interceptions, one of which was a pick 6. Now, as many of you know, I am very much, when it comes into corners, I prefer a lockdown coverage corner opposed to somebody who is going to be decorating the stat board with interceptions. I want somebody that QBs look and they say, you know what, I'm not even going to target this guy because there is no point. His tape absolutely excels. He can run with just about any wide receiver that was ever put against him on tape in college, especially in 2023. I love this guy. Now, what exactly are his strengths and his weaknesses? Because I could sit here and glaze this prospect for the next 15 to 20 minutes, but there's obviously going to be red flags. Number one is that he's coming off of an ACL tear, and realistically, I probably wouldn't see him able to play until about week 2, week 3. So he would be missing out on some very quality training camp reps. He would be missing out on quite a few. But here's something that I raise. CB2 is important, right, folks? Very, very important. However, I do always like to point out the fact that the CB2 position that many Bills fans want to replace last year was held by Rasul Douglas, who had a total of 0 interceptions. And that was on a defense that led the league in turnover differential for the vast majority of said season. So to be honest with you, when I look at that metric on the secondary side of things, and I see Shavon Revel, who, by the way, folks, hands down would fall to us at 30. He's going to be there at 30. Many people are saying he might even fall into the early second round, but I think he will be toward the end of the first round. So he could be a corner that likely will be in our radar, hence why I think we're having a conversation with him in the first place. You ride with Dane Jackson, or you ride with Jamarcus Ingram for 1 to 2 weeks, and then let them ride out an additional 3 to 4 weeks as he ramps up and we put him out there and we put Revel, I'd say, midway through the season. That could be done. And that could potentially be a strategy that this front office would use if they elect to take Revel with our first pick in the first round. And as many of you guys know, I'm a big Kenneth Grant guy. I want him over anybody, but I would not be upset with Shavon Revel. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at exactly what he brings to the table per NFL Draft Buzz, one of my personal favorite websites to really get a good understanding of strengths, weaknesses, several other metrics. Let's dive right in. First one, as I mentioned, was his length. Quote unquote, length for days, and knows how to use it. He consistently disrupts passing lanes and bullies receivers at the line with a mean streak that shows up on every pass rep. And folks, prior to this episode, I was scrolling through one of my resources where I have access to a bit of college tape, and it was right in front of your face. Whether or not it's press man coverage, what I love about him is that he's super handsy, right? He always ends up getting a hand on a wide receiver, lets him know that he is there. His recovery speed is all over the place. Every single snap that I saw, whether or not he got burned in the middle, his recovery speed is absolutely elite. He is with each and every single wide receiver that I have seen on several of the film examples. Next up, raw athleticism. It jumps off of the screen. He does have a 4.4 recorded 40-yard dash, which is something I think that all of us are looking for at this position. It shows up when he's running stride for stride with receivers down the boundary, like I just suggested. Now, what's most impressive about him as far as a strength, and this is something that's being pointed out on NFL Draft Buzz right now, when you see a tall corner, like someone above 6'2", 6'3", typically one of the downsides of their game is a transition. Once you're about 6'3", 6'4", like your hips don't get as low, you don't have a low center of gravity, and transitioning typically looks a little wonky. His hip transition game is so smooth, you would assume that this man was 3 to 4 inches smaller. That is how compact and athletic that he is. Drops his hips, changes direction like someone 4 inches shorter, as with the Draft Buzz says, which is absolutely insane. He's a special teams demon, quote unquote, and that the Buffalo Bills really, really love when rookies can be contributors in special teams. So that's a green check mark. And that's something that's really making a lot of sense as into why he is going to be in Orchard Park on April 7th / April 8th. His recovery speed is elite. Like I said, physical mentality shows up in run support as well, folks. He's a dog. He's not afraid to go downhill, make the tackle, and he's a hard-ass hitter as well. His ball skills improved dramatically from 2022 to 2023. So all of these things that potentially could be red flags, which we were about to dive into, just look at how he was able to recover from 2022 to 2023. You saw a massive rise. And the fact that this is his first major injury, I'm going to go on ahead and I'm going to give him a pass on this and roll the dice that he will continue to take that next step, because everything I'm looking at, I love. And last but not least, football IQ shows up in pattern matching. His recognition skills developed rapidly once he got starting reps, showing natural feel for route combinations. Football IQ is very, very important, especially when it comes into a younger prospect. Now, have to look at some of the weaknesses, and then we can overall have a pretty solid conversation of whether or not this makes sense for the Bills. But regardless, he is coming in for a visit, and he could potentially be our guy. Weaknesses: only 1 year of high-level production prior to the ACL injury. Limited sample size will make some teams nervous, despite the obvious physical tools. And that's true. That is accurate, folks. Hence why he has been projected into the late first and or the early second round. But I got to tell you one thing that makes me a bit more confident and making me willing to roll the dice on this prospect, if that's how the board falls. His jump from 2022 to 2023 is the biggest reason why I would be willing to roll the dice on this. He's a young prospect. He got the starting reps, and his production blew up. So I would be fine with rolling the dice on this. He's young. He's 23 years old. He'd be fine. He can get grabby when he loses leverage. He drew more flags than you like to see. He needs to trust his recovery ability instead of panicking. So the good thing is when I see grabby, right, I have a bit of PTSD when it comes into Kyer Elam. I do, unfortunately, right? But what makes me a bit more confident that this is not a Kyer Elam repeat would have to be that he does have the recovery speed. His recovery speed is perfect on tape. So as long as we can coach him out of that, I am completely fine. And don't get me wrong, I want our corner to be physical. I love when I see a young cornerback put hands on a wide receiver the second that a snap is let off. Let the guy know that you're there, but don't be drawing any dumbass flags. Next one is going to be his medical evaluation will be crucial. His September 2024 ACL tear means he'll likely miss crucial pre-draft process and possibly the start of the rookie season. Now, that ACL, I'd say injury, is fickle. We don't know how long it takes for any particular player that suffers it, right? Like, for example, we're seeing this fairy tale that Stephon Diggs is going to be available by week 1, although that he tore his ACL, in, I believe it was late October. And then we've seen a couple where a guy was out for a year and a couple of months. It's probably half the reason why Buffalo is having a top 30 visit with this guy. Just want to see how far along he is in his recovery process. Is this something that Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane want to roll the dice on? We shall see. And then last but not least, he takes some unnecessary risks jumping routes. His aggression is mostly good, but can lead to big plays when he guesses wrong. So I'll tell you what, I would much rather an aggressive corner than a scared corner. Somebody who lacks confidence in his overall game. I would much rather the aggressive nature. I think that out of all the weaknesses that we just read, of course, minus some of the injuries or the injury concern, especially when getting grabby, when he loses leverage, especially with unnecessary risks when it comes into jumping routes, I think all of that is coachable. And that's half of the reason, right? Like, we all look at, hey, you know what? This team needs this draft prospect. But let me tell you something, folks. All of these NFL draft prospects equally need the NFL organization that drafts them as well for further development to allow them to have fulfilling careers. So where they can get all the accolades, be donned top 5 in the league at the respective position. So a couple of other things. And then last weakness, zone coverage instincts are still developing. So he occasionally loses track of crossing routes when passing off receivers in quarters coverage. So again, that's something that I think that could be coached out of him. And the key word there being occasionally. But based off of everything that I have seen, I think that this would be a home run. This would be a home run. Now, it's very tough to say where the Buffalo Bills are aiming, right? Like, when we brought in Isaiah Bond, who is a third-round prospect, if you were to ask me, I think Brandon Beane is painting a picture of where he is particularly targeting a position based off of where we are, like, drafting, right? So I think what we saw from the Isaiah Bond meeting is that more than likely Buffalo is going to wait for the third and or the fourth round. Obviously, we need to get into the third round, but that gives you a pretty good picture / understanding. And the fact that Shavon Revel is being brought in for the Buffalo Bills is because they are more than likely going the corner / the defensive tackle route in the first round by itself. Shavon Revel would not have been brought in unless the Buffalo Bills are strongly considering taking him in the first round. Sure, I suppose that they could trade up into the early second. Not necessarily sure why they would do that, because a lot of the positions of need where those classes fall, we would be able to absolutely smack where we currently are. But I think that's a pretty good sign. And I think we will have a better understanding, or / the front office of Buffalo will have a better understanding based off of his physical. How far along is he from this reconstructed ACL? I don't know. Shavon Revel, man. Shavon Revel. Will he be a Buffalo Bill? Regardless, the Buffalo Bills are sincerely doing their homework. I need to give a giant shout out to today's sponsor. That just so happens to be William Mattar. Folks, William Mattar is the #1 car accident attorney in the state of New York. If you were ever hurt in a car, you better call William Mattar, right? I would never wish a car accident on anybody. Sometimes we get a little fender bender. Sometimes we get a little T-bone action, you know? If you get hurt, it's very important to have correct representation. And you don't want to cheap out on this, right? Go on ahead. Reach out to William Mattar if you ever find yourself in that unfortunate scenario. And William Mattar, thank you so much for sponsoring the Don Mafia show. That was absolutely ugly, man. Look at that. And so I was talking about this media presentation. Anyway, folks, now is the time of the show where I transition over to the live chat, because I love polling Bills Mafia, polling NFL fans on their thoughts on specific prospects or whatever the topic is of the day. So, folks listening on Spotify and or Apple Podcasts, again, I really hope you're enjoying the show. If you do, please consider leaving a rating and review. And if you ever want to be a part of this next segment, make sure you look me up on YouTube. I believe it's in the description, or you can simply just search Dan Mitchell. You will see my cartoon face staring right at you. All right, man. Let's go ahead and check out the boys. Let's go ahead and check out the boys real fast and see how everybody is doing. Bill 716 has come in with a statement to begin. He says, I don't want the Bills to draft a corner that has more questions than answers and is not likely going to be available at the start of the season. So I get that, right? Because so I think one of the biggest trends of this channel for the past couple of weeks has been, I want day one contributors, right? But I think I kind of need to walk that back and put an asterisk on that, because there's certain position groups that I need them to be day one contributors. And those position groups include defensive tackle, wide receiver, safety. All three of those, if drafted in the earliest rounds, I need them to be day one contributors because, quite frankly, when you look at the Buffalo Bills' weaknesses last year, right? It had to do with stopping third down conversions, getting to the quarterback. Hence why I think that defensive tackle is a necessity, somebody that can be plugged in immediately. I think that you can play the long game with the CB2 selection. I do. I feel like you can play the long game here because, again, yes, it's a need. Yes, we need somebody opposite of Christian Benford because we needed a hell of a lot more from Rasul Douglas last year. But again, guys, right? Like our secondary was number one in turnover differential last year. Like we had a great secondary last year. Our problem with the secondary was that our defensive line just wasn't getting enough pressure. So what's the big like holdup of, oh man, like we need to replace Rasul Douglas. Like he had a very off season last year. So I think philosophically, we could afford like rolling out Dane Jackson / Ingram for like 2 to 3 weeks because really what our issue was having these guys healthy during the playoffs by itself. So as far as drafting day one contributors, I think that I would only attach that to defensive tackle, to wide receiver as well, because we need somebody that can create vertical separation. Finding a player like Shavon Revel, say, for example, he's not available till week 3, week 4, and say that he's fully ramped up by the, like end of October, and he's full systems go, and he's a giant contributor when football matters most in November and December and even into the playoffs. Yeah, sign me up on that. Sign me up on that. But again, listen, he's not the only prospect that we could potentially grab. As many of you know, I'm still a Trey Amos guy. I'm still so does A. Thomas guy. I'm still a Darian Porter guy. But hence today's topic, Shavon Revel, since he ended up getting an invitation from Buffalo. Jay has come in. What's up, Jay? So Revel can be intriguing, but I'd rather go Trey Amos or Azarie Thomas in the second round from Florida State University. I had the pleasure of actually seeing both of those prospects at the Senior Bowl. I didn't get to see a lot from Amos, unfortunately, because he tweaked his hamstring, I want to say, or something like that, and he had to sit out for the remainder of practice, did not participate in the actual game. But Azarie Thomas did look very good. He did look very good. His hips kind of struggle a little bit, like when he comes into transitioning. That was probably one of the things that I was a bit concerned of, but luckily he would be called to run predominantly zone over at this. So I don't necessarily see him being a crazy press man sort of coverage guy. Square has come in, says, Dan, we need Josh Allen for our defense. And do you think a DB has the potential to be that? Yes, but we don't necessarily like need to look at the first round as where you can find a Josh Allen for the defense, right? Like for a while prior to the injury, I would probably say that Matt Milano was the Josh Allen of the defense prior to his unfortunate stretch of injuries, if you will. I think that Josh Allen of the defense needs to be somebody on the defensive line. And I think the defensive line class is very, very deep, right? And also, I think that we can't keep ignoring the fact that there are a couple of players that we ultimately ended up drafting last year that could certainly step up and see a crazy year 2 development or a year 2 jump up. It happens each and every single year, right? So, dare I say it's Javon Solomon. What if Javon Solomon has a breakout year? Still on this roster, he's going into year 2. He's 2 years removed from leading all of college football in sacks last year. Maybe he's a dog. Maybe Joey Bosa can stay healthy for 18 games this year, including playoffs, have a 10-plus sack season, really get to the quarterback. Maybe it's Kenneth Grant who opens up everybody else, / it's Ed Oliver. It's just that one piece on the defensive line that needs to go crazy. I love it. I like that prospect, but I want Kenneth Grant. Hey, man, listen, we all want Kenneth Grant. Listen, you know that if I could, I would be the president of the Buffalo Bills Draft Kenneth Grant Club in the first. That's my dude. And trust me, say that Revel doesn't go to the Buffalo Bills. There are several other options for this team. There is a Trey Amos, but again, he's going to be early second. Realistically falling to Buffalo based off of us staying put in the second or us slightly trading up. I think you are way more in line for an Azarie Thomas, for a Darian Porter, perhaps, for a Maxwell Hairston as well. He could potentially be a guy that could fall to us as well, but we will see. We have Derek Cunningham is coming in. He is saying, no thanks. I am good on Revel. I want someone who is going to be a natural fit in our secondary without learning how to adapt to a zone corner, cough, cough, Elam. He has plenty of good zone chops, right? Like he excels in man coverage, but he was also asked to run a lot of zone as well. I think you might be looking at a scouting report where he said that he occasionally struggles with crossing routes in a zone scheme. I think that's such a small part of the game. And also remember, I understand that Kyrie Elam was a project, right? That like we needed to go on ahead and adapt him into a zone scheme by itself. But 9 times out of 10, man, like you see some sort of progress, especially as a professional athlete. I feel like Kyrie Elam was almost an anomaly. Like you would assume that after years and years of having some of the best coaches in the world attempting to help you use strengths in your game to adapt, I feel like that was just an anomaly at this point. But listen, I totally understand as far as true scheme fits, as many of us know, like a perfect scheme fit for Buffalo would be Will Johnson from Michigan. He would be perfect. So would Azarie Thomas. He would be a perfect scheme fit. Um, Barron more than likely would be as well, but he's not falling to us. But hey, who knows? Jay, Dan, and you got to make a separate video on James Cook. I'm starting to get pissed with him. Rest of the guys who got their extensions were doing cryptic shit on social media. Cook should take notes. Man, you know what? Sometimes you got to strike where the iron is hot, right? Yesterday, I did do a video on James Cook. Will he hold out? And then just hours later, we saw that he potentially put his house up for sale in Orchard Park. I was considering doing a video on that this morning. Perhaps I'll do it a little later today so we can unpack, because no matter what the topic is, folks, we could be unpacking all these draft prospects or something along those lines. Nothing ever fails. A James Cook being mentioned in the live chat for the past 2 weeks never fails to be mentioned. But listen, I got to give the people what they want. So perhaps a James Cook episode will be releasing a bit later again. Prop is coming in saying, I believe that first and second round, we are addressing the defense. Yeah, man. So to be honest with you, like there are really only 2 potential offensive picks I could see the Buffalo Bills going for. One of which is wide receiver, but that's 3rd and 4th round if you were to ask me. Sneaky pick slash draft selection would be a left guard. But that would likely be a later round as well, since David Edwards would be a pending free agent next season. So we're going to be looking for a left guard at some point. So do not be shocked if one of these selections is a left guard. But yeah, dude, listen, I mean, it is clear. We certainly need some help on the defensive tackle side of things. I still am pretty adamant of the fact that we will double dip at the defensive tackle position, CB2, safety as well. Say, for example, that we want to grab somebody that excels in coverage, because you look at our safety room and 3 of the guys we brought in, Forrest, DeMar Hamlin, and Taylor Rapp, all of their contracts expire next offseason. So that needs to be addressed. Who's going to be in line with Cole Bishop. So that's also something. It's not just based off of immediate need for the Buffalo Bills. You also need to look at expiring contracts the following offseason based off of the projected cap space that we have. So yes, dude, listen, I wholeheartedly agree with you. In no particular order, these are the first 3 picks for the Buffalo Bills. Defensive tackle, CB2, safety. Maybe not safety. I'm going to take that away. CB2, So a defensive tackle, perhaps an edge rusher too. I think that would be the case. Maybe they throw a curveball in there and we end up getting a wide receiver with that second round pick and or a third off of the board. I like that prospect, but I want Kenneth Grant. Absolutely. Prop has come in with a great question. Dan, is there any value to draft a quarterback in the late rounds? Is there any long shot? I don't necessarily see it because me personally, I really don't value a QB2 because 90% of the NFL would be royally screwed if their QB1 goes down. There are probably 3 NFL organizations where, say that the starter were to go down for about 4 games, that I could trust that the backup would be able to finesse 3 of the 4 games for 4 wins. Right now, we still have Mitchie Biscuits under contract this year. We have Mike White, who is currently on the practice squad, who I think is more than serviceable, and have to look at how this roster is currently looking. Because we have 10 draft picks, more than likely we're only going to be able to roster 6 to 7 guys. So I don't necessarily see us going for a QB in the later rounds. And even if we did, a snowball's chance in hell of him being able to make the roster. Spin has come in and said, I think Grant is the safest pick Bean could make that would appease most Bills fans. For sure. For sure. I'm not entirely sure if Bean ever scrolls through the interwebs of Bills Mafia. But yeah, I mean, I would agree. He would probably be, oh, man, the safest to walk away from him, right? And although that many of you know that I'm not a Derek Harmon guy, I feel like a lot of Bills fans would be happy with Derek Harmon. I'd say a large majority. A defensive tackle more than likely would do it. If he goes any other direction, if he goes corner, say he goes wide receiver, there is going to be a mass exodus of fans claiming that they are not watching this season. Oh my God. I can't get right. 360 has come in. Man, this kid has had it rough. Fractured skull, broken collarbone, broken hand, and a torn ACL. Damn, a fractured skull. Absolutely crazy. All right. He's a dog. He is a dog, man. He is a dog. All right. Dwight Schwieger. Damn, Cook trying to force a trade. Good luck finding a team to pay him $15 million. It's not going to happen. He's going to play. We addressed this ad nauseum yesterday. But listen, man, everybody wants their James Cook topic fix. It sounds like that the thirst will never be quenched. So perhaps my episode later this afternoon will be able to satisfy that for you guys. Nate has come in and said, Javon Solomon, edge rusher / outside linebacker, biggest sleeper in the draft. Bills need to target this guy. Damn, Mitchell, Nate. So I'm going to tell you what, Nate. The good thing is, Nate, is that he is on this team already. And we already did that, all right? For a second, I thought that I just hopped into a time machine and it was 2024. But have no fear. He is on my list for a massive year 2 jump. He led all of college football in sacks last year. Well, actually, in his final year of college. And I thought that he had some pretty solid chops toward the back half of the season when he had his opportunities. So that is what I am targeting. Mikey has come in saying, damn, my man, I've been away for a bit. Have you looked at this guy named Ty Robinson? I have. He's a defensive tackle out of Nebraska. Now, here's my thing. If, for example, Ty Robinson was drafted by the Buffalo Bills, I would be interested, but he better be our double dip candidate, right? He's still very raw. Say that you were to ask me, right? Many people are saying that he'd probably be the best fit in a 3-4 formation, sort of off of the edge, rather than a true interior guy. He still needs a lot of development in his pass rush moves as well. Yes, I was impressed by his 40-yard dash, but again, I have said that I want Buffalo to double dip at the defensive tackle position. So if Ty Robinson ultimately ends up being one of those selections by Buffalo, I really hope that our first defensive tackle was either Kenneth Grant / Tyleek Williams. But yes, I have looked into it. DF Forever. Dwayne, what's up, Dwayne? How you doing? Dan, I have an idea for you. Ask your guest to put a Q : dash, excuse me. I have no idea why I said colon in front of a question so you can tell if someone is making a question / a statement. Folks, that is actually great. Dwayne, thank you so much for the suggestion. Folks, from now on, like, I welcome statements. I love statements. But from now on, so that I could easily decipher between the two, if you have a question for me, please go on ahead and begin the sentence with a Q dash. So that way that for all the people that are listening on audio, we'll be able to differentiate between the two. That would be wonderful. If it is a question, please begin with a Q dash, and we can go from there. This is beautiful. All right, we have David Abbott. Hello, Dan. 3 weeks before the drafts, I would like to know your grades regarding the Bills lineup. 1 offensive line, 2 wide receiver and tight end, 3 running back, 4 defensive line, 5 linebacker, 6 cornerback, safety, 6 kicker, and punter. Regarding the QB position, not necessary. Allen is an A+. And finally, what is the team's strong position? And what is the most vulnerable positions in your opinion? David, let me tell you what I absolutely love. I absolutely love that idea. And I'll tell you what, I think that is something that I would need to dedicate an entire video / podcast to. Grading the current Buffalo Bills roster as is and truly identifying what the biggest needs are for the upcoming NFL draft. So certainly stay. Look at that. We have Dwayne has come in. Q dash. Can you smack Bob for me? Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. Now, folks, I can tell you this. There's probably several of you that are listening on audio form, and you're probably wondering, who is Dan smacking? I have a Century Bob punching bag who normally accompanies me during my live play-by-play reactions on YouTube. If the Buffalo Bills do something that pissed me off, I typically beat the shit out of this punching bag. It's very comical. I feel like every single stream that I hop on, somebody is asking me to assault this poor guy. So certainly consider coming on over to YouTube and then making it happen. We have No Bones About It has come in. And it said, Dante Thornton Jr. will be the steal of the draft. He is a perfect process guy, too. So the Dante Thornton Jr. wide receiver out of Tennessee is intriguing. He really didn't have a lot of snaps, but the snaps that he did have, right, he really took full advantage of them. He has blazing speed on the outside, quality hands. He's your vertical guy, man. Who knows? He perhaps could be on the Buffalo Bills radar. But I think all of us know who my favorite wide receiver prospect is in the later rounds, and that just so happens to be Kyle Williams. I am feeling it right now. Mikey has come in saying, question, have you looked at any punters? I went down a rabbit hole, and the punter from South Carolina, Kroger, former QB, and runs a 4.8, punt average 47.8. Man, you know what? Surprisingly enough, yes, I understand that punter we brought in that was formerly on Cincinnati was perhaps one of the worst punters in the NFL. But the other punter, I believe it's Camara, something. He's actually not bad. Like, he was top 5 in several metrics. So if we go the punter route, I would probably have to say that it's going to be an undrafted free agent because, quite frankly, I really see 3 to 4 punters perhaps being selected. Vast majority of them will be undrafted free agents. I would not be surprised if that was on our radar to bring in some additional competition. Indeed. We got Spidey has come in and saying, are you going to any games this year, Dan? I am, as a matter of fact. So I have already reached out to my local ticket rep over in Buffalo, because as many of you know, the AFC East Roundtable, the podcast that I am a part of, that pins together AFC East divisional rivals. We meet weekly, by the way. It's a great show. I highly recommend you check it out. We go to each and every single stadium, or at least we try to, where we like to have a specialized event for all of our fans where they get to go, tailgate with us, watch a live show. And I am planning on doing it. We are planning on doing it. And I have already attempted to lock down a pre-night party where we would do our show. I'm still looking for a tailgate partner as well, so all of us can go and tailgate together. And we are looking to buy about 50 tickets where we can all sit together and watch the first home divisional matchup in Buffalo. So that is in the works. I also plan on going to a couple of away games this year because I know that we are playing in the NFC South. I want to say that we have games in Atlanta. So I may be going to the Bills Atlanta game. And then I will also likely try and make it up for a playoff game / one of the big games in Buffalo. I think I would be intrigued in going to the Bills-Bengals game / the Bills-Ravens game in Buffalo as well. But let's make that happen. And then John Robert is coming saying, Kamara averaged 49.1 yards for your information. Yeah, listen, I fully understand that the most recent punter acquisition Buffalo brought in is what the kids would say trash. But Kamara is actually pretty serviceable. And again, right? How often does Buffalo punt? How often does Buffalo punt? I think that's the question. Bill 716, and folks, thank you so much for continuing this format here. Q dash, that is right, folks. If you have a question, please begin it with Q dash so I can easily decipher between a take and a question. We got Bill 716. Where do you see us going linebacker, maybe 109? And do you think Jeffrey Bossa is an option? He's a special teams monster, a great tackler, and really good in pass coverage. He moved from safety to linebacker. So linebacker is interesting to me, right? Because very much like the left guard and very much like the safety position, we're good this year in 2025, but we have an expiring contract, right? We have a Matt Milano who is going to hit free agency next offseason. I do not believe he will be back in 2026. So I think this is a sneaky need by itself. I like Jeffrey Bossa quite a bit. He's probably one of my favorites. And you know that Sean McDermott really likes looking for particular linebackers that excel in coverage. Like he wants the well-rounded monster. He really, really does. So I'd be fine with that. At 109, 4th round, I feel like I would be okay. Because where it stands currently, I do believe we have 2 4th rounds, 3 5ths. And let me know if I'm wrong here. Keith and Suzanne Blackburn. What's going on, Keith and Suzanne? Hope all is well. Q Dash is saying Southern boys like Amos make us nervous since their ability to play in cold weather is questionable. Dawson Knox. Is there a player like Khalil Mack at UB this year? There is a linebacker out of UB named Sean Dolak, who quite a few people are very excited about. Maybe it's the Joe Andreessen hype, hoping that you can find some homegrown talent, somebody that is used to playing in those sort of situations. So the thing, Keith and Suzanne, I typically don't look at Southern boys as, oh my God, I'm not entirely convinced that they are going to be able to transition into cold weather. And granted, it's very difficult to play in Buffalo. I'd probably say, in fact, you know what? I'd probably say it is probably the most difficult environment to play in all of the NFL. Some might say Green Bay. I'd say it's Buffalo. Like, it's just where we're located. Thank God our new stadium is just going to allow all of the elements to slap the visiting team in the face, where for the most part, we would be protected. A vast majority of our roster is from Florida, Texas / Arizona / Southern California, right? And that's the vast majority of players as well that play in college football. So I've never really particularly looked at that and said, oh my God, I'm kind of nervous about it, because I feel like we can look at Josh Allen, right? Like, he's an absolute star, right? Like, he was in California, right? And then even Jim Kelly, right? Like, dude was here, let me see. Now, maybe he was Northeast. He went to school in Miami. But like, what I'm saying is that there have been so many stars on this team in the past that were originally from Florida, played in a Southern school, and then came up and absolutely just went off. So it depends. It depends. Spidey Munn has come in and said, I would love to see them in their stadium before they transition to the new one. Definitely going to watch them in Atlanta. Saw them 8 years ago when they were there this last time. Yeah, for sure. I am looking at a couple of away games that I would potentially love to take a look at, but we will see. Mikey has come in and said, question, thoughts on trading into the third for Danny Stutzman? Any thoughts on Stutzman? So I'll be honest with you, I've been seeing his name skyrocket in the draft boards. I have really not had an opportunity of taking a look, but I am more than happy to and report back, because that is a sneaky need for this team. I sincerely appreciate the question. We have another question coming in from Clay. How many picks do you see the Buffalo Bills actually drafting, and who? Oh, man. All right. So we have 10 draft picks where it stands right now. I think we walk away with 7. 6 make the team. 6 make the starting 53 roster, one of which will be a practice squad designation. It's a lot of picks, particularly in the later rounds of the draft. We currently don't have a 3rd round pick. We have 2 in the 2nd. I feel like this is telling us that Bean is going to be, I'd say, relatively active on all of the draft nights, of being able to trade up, get rid of some of the picks we have perhaps in the later rounds. But yeah, that is my guess. Have 10 draft picks. I think we have 7 players we walk away with. 6 will make the team. Old Stadium will be demolished March 2027. I did see that, John. Man, you know what? It's going to be great having the stadium right next door to the new one during the inaugural season. It's going to be great. Dude, Jesse, he's back from Bora Bora. Him and his wife went to Bora Bora for a tad, and I appreciate that. Mr. Mitchell, I hope all is well. Cook is good, but he isn't elite. He plays with Josh Allen, 17, who opens him up. Seems he is asking for too much. No, maybe going through Le'Veon Bell route ruining his career. Shout out. Listen, you know what? This is perhaps one of the most polarizing topics amongst Bills Mafia. It is truly split down the middle as far as players, or fans, that believe that we should just hand James Cook a blank check. But then others are on the sentiment of you, where it's like, hey, listen, he is just a product of his environment. He is behind the 3rd best run blocking offensive line, and he also has a QB that is a mobile QB that other defenses need to account for, which in turn maybe gives him better opportunities. Very true, Jesse. Guys, we have heard this from an objective viewpoint. A 49ers fan has come in and let us know his thoughts right here. Jesse, I sincerely hope that you enjoyed Bora Bora. How long were you there, man? Holy hell. I feel like you've been gone for about a week. And then Dwayne, shout out to my mods, man. Shout out to Dwayne. Shout out to Mike Green. Shout out to everybody that keeps the peace in my YouTube live chat on a regular basis. Man, I really hope that I can meet each and every single one of you guys in person during our Bills event this upcoming season. I have a feeling that I will. Man, and I am looking forward to that. And he is right. Like, share, and subscribe. Guys, the easiest way to show some love over here is quite simply just by smashing that like button, subscribing to the channel. More importantly, making sure you have bell notifications turned on, because I love engaging with my live chat. Like, this is what football analysis should be. Polling Bills Mafia, polling fan bases and seeing their thoughts and building the conversation off of that. I pride myself in being a conversational creator. That is for damn sure. And then those of you that are on Spotify /Apple Podcasts, If you were enjoying the show, please do me a favor, leave a rating and review. And more importantly, tell a friend. If you are a salivating Bills fan and or an NFL fan and you think somebody else would enjoy this show, certainly feel free to mention my name. All right, Matthew came in with a question. When will be the AFC event in Miami? Would it be a game? How can you go? How much money? Go Bills. Would love to go. Matthew, what's going on? Great question. So we did a Miami event last year. We did Dolphins, Jets, and we did not really have a lot of sales during that event, largely because both the Jets and both the Miami Dolphins were well into their dumpster fire era of the season. And quite frankly, I don't blame people for not purchasing tickets. However, normally what all of these event tickets sort of consist of is we ultimately end up giving you guys a game ticket, like where y'all can sit with us. Then we also give access to a pre-night party and then also a tailgate of some sort. Roughly, it's typically, so depending on how much the ticket is, like we typically do about, I don't know, like say for example, I think last year's event for Jets and Bills in New York City, I wanted to say that that ticket was at about $275 or $290. I don't remember how much we were charging for Miami, but it's all really depending on how much it ultimately ends up costing us and all the work that goes into it. So that is largely what it is. All right, so we have Jesse. I was there a week and traveled 2 days, so it was a good long vacation. I'm going to need to see some pictures of the huts that y'all were in, my friend. I see you. Oh, man, I see so many people out there just relaxing in paradise in Bora Bora, man. Damn. Envious, man. I'm glad that you were able to unplug a little bit, especially in a destination such as that. Mikey has come in with a question. Are there any late round guys you are looking at? Joshua Gray, offensive guard. I have my eyes on him. Again, look, like we have David Edwards, left guard, as a pending free agent in 2026. I'm not sure if he's actually done enough to be like, oh my God, we need to extend this guy. I think that left guard is going to be a sneaky pick by itself. I'm going to have to look at Joshua Gray. That is something. As many of you guys know, I have a draft crush on Kyle Williams out of Washington State. Really love that prospect, man. He reminds me of prime Stephon Diggs with his route running capabilities, full route tree, insane hands, man beater, breaks ankles of DBs all over film. He's my favorite wide receiver in this class by itself and really who I'm loving. So say that we don't walk away with Jalen Royals in the third or the fourth, I am going to be pounding the table and manifesting a Kyle Williams to this team if we elect to wait for a wide receiver in later rounds. There are events in Miami. Miami fans just don't show up. It's very similar to Los Angeles, right? Like we were thinking about doing an event like down in LA for our NFC West roundtable too, but like we're not entirely convinced that we would see a lot of Los Angeles Rams fans coming. It's just one of those. It's crazy with the Dolphin Stadium because I have never seen that stadium packed ever, like sold out fully. I just have never seen it. I don't understand it. I mean, maybe they could say, oh, it's Miami, man. There's so many things to do, but I don't know. That's kind of my thing. We have Movie Madness has come in with a wish list. My dream draft would be Grant Higgins. We have Amos. We have Oladejo, Smukaba, Stutzman, and Miles Frazier. That's interesting, man. Listen, I think that that's a bit different from a lot of the mock drafts that I have been seeing from quite a few of you. Oh, man, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Dan, Walter Nolan, there's something I love about him. We have L Sweetie live. Man, listen. He's a dude. He is a dude. I think that I would be pretty good with Walter Nolan right now. For some reason, his build and his utilization in college doesn't scream true one tech to me. But I think he's athletic enough to become that. Like he has a very well-rounded resume where he's quality in run defense too, right? Like he had like the highest PFF grade in run defense, almost better than Kenneth Grant. He has better pass rushing chops as well. So he is, but I just don't know. Like something about me. I'm just like, is he a fit? Is he a fit for what exactly we're looking for? I'd probably be fine with him. I'm not going to lie to you. We have Paul Costa. Patriots pounded the table for that 5th round pick for Joe Milton. He beat Buffalo. He was worth much more. Indeed, man. Indeed. He beat Buffalo. In fact, you know what? I remember that game because I suited up for that game, my friend. I was the safety out there, you know? And my boy Jesse was CB2. Like, Buffalo had tryouts out in the parking lot, like during that Week 18 matchup. And they sold it to the highest bidder out there, man. You know what I mean? I will always remember that day on Week 18 where was me and your local workers union that suited up for Week 18. And Milton torched me, dude. He torched us all. He torched us all, my friend. Last second sports. Better do the Jets and Dolphins roundtable sports event in the first 4 weeks. Otherwise, their seasons will be shot. That was my thought process. So when we were talking about events, I was saying we got to do Miami like week 2. Like, regardless of who they are playing, like, we need to go to the first divisional Miami home game. That needs to happen because I feel like otherwise it would just be like pissing money down the drain. So we would walk out with a massive loss in we would walk out with a massive loss for expenses. Solid situation. We have learned from our mistakes. We will no longer schedule Miami events after week 10 because we all know that their season goes to shit after week 7 each and every single year. You think Walter Nolan will be there at 30? Yes, I do, but I'm not necessarily sure that Buffalo stays at 30, to be honest. I think that we're probably in tune to slightly trade up for a guy that we like. And as far as a realistic trade up package, I'm thinking it's probably 24 with the Vikings. Absolute highest I believe that Buffalo could go up to and that I think that they would be interested in going up to would be 19. But going up that high, we'd probably be targeting a DB that falls. Right? Say that we trade up with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 19. More than likely, I would say the target's going to be a Will Johnson from Michigan saying that he falls. Also a Nick, same thing with Emanwari. So I feel like both of those prospects, if we were to trade up that high, would be for one of those two players. A Kenneth Grant would be a trade up, I would say, around 24, 21 with the Pittsburgh Steelers / the Minnesota Vikings. It just depends ultimately where we go. Dan, I think you could be a one tech and not heavy. Different ways to take up multiple linemen. Absolutely. Maybe my thought process on Walter Nolan is unfair. He's an athlete, right? Like his run stopping numbers are there. His pass rushing chops are there. And maybe my gripe with him is completely unfair. I don't know why, but maybe it's my love affair with Kenneth Grant. Maybe it's that, but trust me, I would not be punching the wall, pissed off, and attempting to lead a coup with the current Buffalo Bills front office if Walter Nolan truly turned out to be the guy. And we have Jesse coming in, well-versed in a lot of draft prospects, and I'm glad he's letting me know. Nolan is crazy. I was talking about him 11 months ago, seemingly falling, but for what reason? Dude is a stud. So here's a question for you. Who do you think ultimately ends up having a better career? Grant / Walter Nolan. And are they similar players in your eyes? Why do you... All right. Based off of what I'm looking for, Jesse, why do you think that most Bills fans are so enamored with Kenneth Grant and not so much Walter Nolan? What do you think the difference is between the two? Let's talk about it. No bones about it. Just came in with another statement. And he says, I really don't want to see us give up one of our second round picks to move up in the first. Perhaps it won't cost that, right? So one of our second round picks, say that we just wanted to trade up slightly, like up to 24, like right up to 21. See, the thing is that I think that Madden has really poisoned the minds of quite a few people because we always have like these predispositions that we believe that moving up a couple of picks is going to cost a haul, right? Like we're like, oh my God, that's at least going to cost like a second round pick or a next year second. But 9 times out of 10, like we always see like teams slightly trade up or 6 or 7 picks trade up. And so the compensation, we're just like, oh my God, we moved up for that. It happens each and every single year. We have Last Second Sports. I do think Nolan is better as a 3 tech, but man, if he is there at 30, you got to just take a great prospect. That is why. That is why. And then Jesse also adds, Grant is a huge body. He fits the need better, but Nolan is a clear better prospect, in my opinion. Draft the better prospect and figure it out. That explains quite a bit to me. Why I prefer Kenneth Grant over Walter Nolan is because it is exclusively a scheme fit for us, right? Like Grant is your 1 tech, and Nolan, based off of his athleticism and his ability, he's more of a 3. But according to Jesse, he's a way better prospect. I don't know, folks. Kiggs has come in. Hey, Dan, I saw some of the Bills might trade for Jordan Addison, the wide receiver on the Vikings, or the wide receiver on the Saints, Olave. I would do Jordan. Kiggs, I believe that was nothing but speculation. That was nothing but something that like you would like hear, say, for example, that you were a fly on the wall of still a middle school bus ride. You know what I mean? Like, dude, who would win in a fight, a grizzly bear or a great white shark? Speculation at this point. I don't believe that Buffalo is planning on making any major free agency acquisitions at all. If, for example, we see like any news that breaking with the Buffalo Bills are signing blank, it's going to be nothing but names that none of us are familiar with. It's going to be somebody who we are bringing in for depth / camp bodies, etc. We just don't have the money for it. I suppose that we could do Jordan Addison. He's still technically on a rookie deal. If, for example, but I think Minnesota has better plans. Like they are still trying to contend. And I think walking away from a very quality wide receiver too, I would say arguably the best wide receiver too in all of the NFL. I have Addison right over T. Higgins. I just don't see that happening. And then with Olave, he is 1 concussion away from retirement. So I wouldn't see either of those two being that. And plus, right? Like we were number 1 in the league for points per game so the squad that we rolled out with last year. So I don't think that we're going to be bringing anybody else in. I think Joshua Palmer was that wide receiver free agent acquisition that we are all talking about here. Can't Get Right has come in with a statement or a question, excuse me. Hey, Dan, how many picks to give up to be in the top 10? That would require a haul. It's not something I believe that we would do because I think a lot of our positions of need are relatively deep, at least within the first 2 or 3 rounds. I don't know. Oh, my God. We have Kenneth Allen has come in with a question. He says, and do you think we are going to draft 2 wide receivers? No, I think that if we double dip on any position, it's going to be defensive tackle. Yeah. In fact, I'm almost willing to guarantee that that's likely where we're going to be. We have Derek Jeffords. Dan, you should talk about the measurables with the players. Man, Shavon Revel, man. He's that dude. 6'3", 196 pounds. Spideyman, chat. And do you know when tickets go on sale? It's when the schedule is released. Schedule is released at the beginning of May. Curious to see when NFL schedule releases. NFL schedule release. And let me tell you what, that's going to be, that is going to be a hell of a stream day for us. When is the schedule release? Schedule release is Los Angeles, the rookie premiere, rookie development programs, clubs may elect to hold their own 3-day. June deadline. When is the schedule release? Specific day. When is the NFL schedule release? Mid-May, typically. Mid-May is typically when we see it. Matthew saying, Dan, I want the Bills to draft hat. Will go great with J17 MVA shirt. Damn. Kiggs, Last question, folks, and then I'm getting out of here. So I need to take my dog out. He's been looking at me, and I don't want him to leave me a surprise in the living room. You know what I mean? And so he left me a surprise in my office last night. Can't do that. Kiggs is coming saying, so Dan, this corner on the YouTube topic, is he good? I have not been keeping up with these college prospects. He is, but he certainly has some red flags, right? And mostly it has to do with medical history. He tore his ACL, I believe, 3 games into the college season last year, but his 2023 season was remarkable. And based off of his trajectory for the 3 games he did play in 2024, he was on pace to crush his numbers from that previous season, which put him on the map in the first place. I think, barring injury, we probably would have been looking at Revel as perhaps CB1 in this draft. So there's a lot of question marks of whether or not that he's going to be healthy. I think that's half of the reason why Buffalo is bringing him in, because I think they see the ceiling with this prospect, but they just want to make sure that this injury that he suffered is not going to be, something that's daunting or something that's going to give us another Trey White situation. We want to make sure that our guys can stay healthy, right? But incredible prospect. I highly recommend that you rewind this stream once it's all said and done and make it happen. But folks, listen, I love you very much. I'm going to be live on Roundtable Sports, Fourth and Forever, a bit later this afternoon. It is our daily NFL news show on the Roundtable Sports Network, Roundtable Sports YouTube channel. We have quite a bit to discuss with all the breaking news, speculation, hot takes, rumors around the league as the draft is inching closer and closer. And then I feel like a lot of you guys still want to talk about James Cook. So maybe I'll do a James Cook video later or some other topic by itself. Again, I ask, if you have not already, just do me a favor and hit that thumbs up sign. It helps my show out tremendously. It introduces the show to maybe some other Bills fans that are desperate to talk ball during the troves of the offseason. And for those of you listening on Spotify / wherever you listen to podcasts, please do me a favor. If you vibed with the content, just go on ahead and leave a rating and review. I love each and every single one of you. I'll see you next time. Deuces.